Welcome to the Mindfully Gay podcast. I'm Jerry.
I'm John.
And I'm Nick.
Today, we're unpacking the world of gay friendships, how we make them, maintain them, and everything in between.
We'll share personal stories, explore the pros and cons of social and hookup apps, and discuss the art of nurturing lasting bonds.
So let's get started and dive deep into what makes gay friendships tick.
All right, so here we are with Mindfully Gay in Sandy, Utah, in our studio.
Yes.
And
it's real. It's not a fake backdrop.
No CGI. No CGI, bro. Yeah.
And I know this is going to be broadcast later, but we're literally on the eve of our retreat.
Excitement.
Right. Yeah.
I think all three of us have chatted a little bit about some anxiety and apprehension, as well as some excitement.
No, and I'm sorry, I just have to say, because this is the first time for me. I know you've sent printouts and things. I suck at reading things and visualize it. Like, I need to experience it. But what you just said about how tonight is going to start is already lighting me up, because it's reminding me of the barbecue. And I had such a good time at the barbecue, just bouncing around, talking to people. And that's what this gets to be. And in fact, that's kind of what it is all weekend. And so it's like, it thrills me, because it is precisely what I want. I just want to meet people and make friends. And I just have a very good feeling now, especially after conversations we've been having.
Yeah. And so we thought, let's talk about gay friendships.
Gay friendships.
Like, we're trying to lay the seed and the platform and the foundation of creating connection and community that goes beyond some of the superficial engagements that happen in our community. And tonight's retreat is going to be an example of that, as well as our other activities. But when we were exploring this topic, I was thinking, right, the substance, like what does it take in 2024 to open our hearts and our minds and our template, if you will, to engaging other men in friendship and connectedness?
How the hell do you do it?
Yeah.
That's really the thing.
It is. And I'm being drawn back in time. I'm trying to think, when did I start developing friendships with other gay men? I came out to myself pretty early. So I just kind of kept it to myself, like, okay, I'm gay, but I kept it to myself. And so I went to Catholic school. There's probably one person I told in high school, and it was a girl who I knew who would be okay with it. And so she was the only person that knew in high school. And then I got to college, and I still wasn't out. I came out in college. But a lot of my friends were still, they were straight as far as I knew. And some were guys, some were girls. I think I met maybe two gay people that were kind of, I guess, my friends in college. But a lot of my friends were straight.
Yeah.
And I guess my point is, well, just what you just said, like, well, how do you meet gay people? When I think about it, I think even today, there's still a fear of being found out. Meaning, let's say I meet somebody and I presume that they're straight. I presume that they're straight, a guy. And so I feel like I've got to put on this thing.
Right, because your attempt at, you would never be able to have a friendship with that person if you weren't.
Exactly.
You might be like, fuck it, I don't want this fag friend or whatever.
Exactly.
That's in my head all the time. I know
exactly, right? And so I put up my masks and the thing, the face, the body, and the voice even. I have to, I change all that not to be found out. And they're, I don't know their perceptions around gay people. They could be gay. I don't know. Right? But it's just very interesting that I'll do that in just kind of in these casual situations, unless I know I'm going into a group where there's going to be gay people, like a gay bar or this gay retreat that we're doing. then I know that my guards are much, lower. So it's kind of interesting, just kind of out in the world and how I present myself, as opposed to knowing I'm in a situation that other gay people are there, like gay pride or gay, just I know that there's going to be a gay presence.
It's a way to have to say something. So definitely two things. So one, the difference between the new person you're meeting and the way you approach that, and then going into a group of gays and knowing how we're going to feel in that group of gays. That's exactly what we're hosting this weekend. That type of place and that comfort of walking into. You don't have to have apprehensions about being gay. And what I'm thinking about in that situation, when it's a straight dude at the gym that's coming up to me and we're talking or whatever, I'm always immediately thinking, oh, this person won't like gay people. This person won't like me if I'm gay, if he thinks I'm gay. But that just relates back to me still being ashamed about being fucking gay. But isn't it nice that at least we can come together in this retreat format and we can drop the fucking shame about being a gay because we're together being gay and it's great. But that is definitely, I don't know. I don't know how to go on to step forward in the world without the shame. Like, it's still just there. And every time I meet people, clients, even stuff like that, I'm hesitant to say my partner. I'm hesitant to give that stuff. I present in a way that I feel is not, giving off signals that I am. And I don't know, wouldn't it be something to just get rid of that fucking thing? That stupid shame.
Do you know, all three of us, I catch myself doing it too. We tend to defer to that word shame. Mm-hmm. But if you were describing how you feel without using the word shame, what would be, how would we expand the concept of shame? Shame is one of those words that we all assume something about.
Well, I mean, I guess, I don't know, just again, this is a really good example that John brought up about a new person, a stranger, a potential friend that's straight, let's say, probably straight, right? But let's just say he's straight. I don't know. I think, okay, I want to have a friend. I'm going to be this, but I don't know. I just assume that they're going to have an issue with my gayness. I don't know if it's shame. I don't know. I don't know if I feel shame. Yeah, I guess that's right. But I'm anticipating them disapproving, I guess is what it is. I anticipate disapproval. That's what it is. I walk around feeling like most of the world disapproves.
I feel unseen, invalidated. I feel scared. There's just not, I just can't be myself.
Mm-hmm. The word that's coming up for me is I feel apprehension. Mm-hmm. And as you guys are talking, I'm listening to this and I'm thinking of my own words. I'm thinking, that sounds like a trauma response. Mm-hmm. That sounds like a process of trauma that's historical, that's embedded into somewhere in our psyche, somewhere in the development of our identity. We've incorporated that historical homophobia in a way that it's reflective. Like it's a they call it when you hit your knee. It's a reflex to. And so when I hear that, I think, okay, so how do you challenge that trauma response? How do you create a new story around that so that if you're some straight dude at the gym, that I'm me and you're you, and there's no question about it. Because I have this other experience. Like, you've met Chris at the gym, right? The trail runner guy. Mm-hmm. Beautiful man. Straight, 15 kids, something like that. Has never batted an eye around me being a gay man, and he's known me for years. And there are times when someone like Chris, who to me is the epitome of masculinity, I'm just like, wow, I'm surprised you don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised that
Mm-hmm.
I seem more apprehensive about you knowing
Mm-hmm.
than you actually knowing and responding to it.
Hmm.
I've had and grown up and had experiences with direct attacks of homophobia, which is probably imprinted into my sense of what to anticipate.
Mhm.
But I can't think of the last time that happened.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
And yet
It
I
just keeps
operate as
happening
if
in the
it's
fucking head all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, wait, I have to say this. I'm sorry. This just, I know, I feel I know where this is anchored for me, where I started training myself in this way. And it's high school. It was North Summit High School. It was in the hallways. It was the, hey, faggot. And I'm like, don't turn around. Just pretend they're not talking to me. This is exactly what Lance Black, I think that's his name, brought up in the documentary. He's the one that was Mormon. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the documentary. I think it's on Netflix.
Netflix, yeah.
It is? Okay. But he even said it. He even said, remember walking down the hallways and them shouting, hey, faggot, and you telling yourself, don't look, just pretend like you know they're not talking to you, but you goddamn well know. And that's the apprehension. You're absolutely right. That's what started to train in me. And that's why I started to learn how to get to class by avoiding everyone, the trails around. I knew all of them because I was just training myself every day to understand that they would all hate me if they knew I was the fag that I knew I was.
Yeah.
And it's apprehension.
Yeah, it's certainly a learned behavior. I'm backtracking again too. It was grammar school, similar kind of thing. Grammar school, where some of the boys, because I was young in school generally, because I skipped a grade, and so I was young and I was small, and there was just taller boys, and I remember there was a couple of boys who they'd had these tricks, to kind of trick you into,
you're a faggot.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly,
Like, do you shake your hand like this or like this? That kind of thing,
totally.
right?
Yes. Yes.
And if you fell for it,
Yep.
that was it.
Faggot.
Game over.
Yep.
Game over. Even if you weren't, because they would trick all the boys.
Right. Right.
And I think that's when my social training started. Like, okay, shut that down and don't respond to those kinds of tricks and things like that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you guys are both talking. I'm having flashbacks.
Yeah. This was the trauma.
It did happen.
We're all getting there
this
right
was
now.
the trauma.
And Americans speak a little bit to the Mormon audience because I was in the military. And at that time, the military it wasn't don't ask, don't tell. It was don't you dare be.
Don't you dare be.
Wow.
And
You've told me this, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I was also very incredibly active in the Mormon church. Here I was, this young single military person who was still a virgin, which they thought
Very
was being
Mormon.
chased.
So Mormon. So pious.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't touch it anything.
Yeah.
That's right.
But what was interesting is I got kind of like super esteemed. Like people were predicting my future in the church, and I was going to be an apostle, and I was going to be a leader, and blah, blah, blah. But every time they would kind of drape me with these accolades of spiritual wonderment, in the back of my mind, I was like, if you only knew, if you only knew what I'm jerking off to, right? If you only knew how sinful I am. And it's interesting. I once there was a sister missionary that I got kind of close with, and I think she kind of knew what I was dealing with. And so her way of helping me was to give me the Boyd K. Packer pamphlet for young men only.
Jesus.
And that was just the scathing editorial around the problems of being gay.
Wow.
And it literally put me in a suicidal spin.
Oh, wow.
But it was always that narrative, if you only knew.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Here's what I would like to think. But I also know that I think in most cases, like pride counseling has always been set up to be a visible counseling place for gay and lesbian people to feel welcome, LGBTQ folks. And for a long time, I only served queer folk. And then I started getting straight people calling me because gay friends were saying, you should go see this guy. And initially my response was, do you know what
You
I
know-
do?
You know who I am.
Do you know?
Do
Right.
you know?
No,
Right.
do
If
you
you
know?
only
Yeah.
do you
Yeah,
know?
right.
And the response was, well, do you see straight people? And I'm like,
Wow.
wow. Yeah. I was like, wow, they want to talk to a gay guy.
Right.
And so in most cases, I'm pretty transparent in my life. Like at the gym, I don't hesitate to incorporate language about my life, my partner, who I am, how I am.
Yeah.
But I know that if we're in Price, Utah, I know if we're in, not that there's a problem with Price, Utah, but I know that there are places that I might perceive as being more conservative
Mm-hmm.
that I will tone it down a
Tone
tiny
it down, dial it back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
which is our programming.
Yeah, that's our programming. And I find myself doing the same thing, even though I can let the guard down a bit in a gay crowd, but those
Mm.
triggers
Mm.
still pop up.
Mm.
It's like, well, what if I'm not the right kind of gay?
Mm. Mhm.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm gay and there's other gay people here, but what if I'm not the right kind and they don't like me because of what I happen to like and I don't fit into the cliques?
Yeah.
So isn't that something? We're taking this, we've all been branded. We've all had this happen to us with straight people in the way that we perceive that they're going to hate us. And we're carrying it on into our gay lives. We're carrying it on into that. And so you brought up an example of an individual that, had a lot of female friends, and he's gay. And you asked him about gay friends. And it's like, I don't, how do I do that? How do I do that?
Yeah.
Through the apps? That's how I have to do it? Like, that's how a lot of people think they can do it. That's the only, and that's abysmal. That's the connections don't happen there. And I think it's because a lot of them have the same thing. We have the same thing. It's in us all that we're so apprehensive about being who we are because we've been taught for so long that it's such a travesty, a bad thing, that even amongst our own community, it's impossible. What if I'm not the right type of gay or whatever? And it really does relate to the deep importance of what we're about to do this weekend.
If we think about this, the right kind of gay, who are the role models in, let's just say gay men in general? Who are the role models in 2024? Like, who stands out as, who are our gay celebrities?
Anderson Cooper.
Oh, that's a good one.
I love Anderson Cooper. Well, I mean, Anderson and Rachel. I mean, the two of them with the primetime and the command that they have.
Yes.
It's it gives me chills even right now. Like, it's just, I think back to when I was younger and searching for the gays, and it's the Voguing Queens on What's Her Name show and Greg Houganis and the AIDS in the pool. And like, just thinking, God, I can't be any, I don't know what to do or be. And then we've got Anderson and we've got Rachel. And I just think they're such wonderful. They're wonderful at what they do, but from my understanding, and I have some for both, they're both good people. And I don't know, for me, they're role models. They're it makes me happy that the younger gays have them. I hope they recognize what they are. They're primetime gays, and they have respect.
Right. But okay, I didn't even think of Anderson, but I'm just wondering who else stands out as getting a lot of public attention that's gay. We have
Like
RuPaul.
Pete Buttigieg, like gay politicians? Do you mean
Just-
like that?
just in
Anyone,
general.
celebrities. Like,
RuPaul, of course.
RuPaul.
we have RuPaul, Pete
Buttigieg.
yeah.
Booty.
um,
He listens to this, just so you know. I know.
yeah.
I'm not supposed to tell. Sorry. Just kidding.
Great. We're going to get sued, and we have no bank account. So we got RuPaul and the drag queens. They're huge. Who gets invited? Here's a better question.
Yeah. Here we
Who
go.
are the headliners in our
Exactly.
Pride Day festivals?
Right. There we are.
Right? It's a lineup of drag queens.
Mm.
Who else? You? Yoga teachers? Instructors? Therapists?
No.
If you make a middle wage
Porn
income,
people can happen. I mean, porn people have been put up on pedestals, but that's kind of that. That's not. I don't think that's a great.
That definitely shows up in the club scene, though,
Yeah.
right? If there's like, here is the bodies we'll have on display tonight,
Mm-hmm.
and they're usually porn stars.
But you're right. You're right. So when we consider those
I mean,
options,
I got to interrupt you.
yeah,
you're putting out names. I'm like, oh God, I feel kind of shallow because I didn't think of Pete. I didn't think of who's the other guy, Anderson.
Yeah, right.
I was just thinking of gay men, but I was.
But they're not in your scope, maybe necessarily.
Watch the news, Jerry.
We're going to cut this. They're not on Netflix. right. I guess my point is, I feel like that the public image gets narrowly focused. I told you this experience we had many years ago when the first Queer Eye for the Straight Guy came out.
Oh, yeah.
Right? There's 5 guys, I think, on that show. And in the original show, I was so turned off by the original show that I've never watched the new one.
Oh.
Okay. But each one of the 5 guys was in his distinctive stereotype.
Yeah.
The queenie, the bitchy one, the pretty one, the jock, right? And I had put pictures, I had like 60 guys, and I put a picture of each one, and I told the guys, go stand next to the person that you most identify with.
Wow.
And there was pandemonium in the middle of the room. And people were complaining. It's like, I don't identify with
any of those.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's good exercise.
And yet that was promoted as this groundbreaking series exposing gay people as real people. And
still, people couldn't relate to them.
Yeah, and I love the magic of RuPaul drag. But I think what happens, like, I haven't watched, and I know you love the show, but I stopped watching it because it showed this weird kind of cattiness and infighting. And I thought, I don't want people watching that thinking that's
the gays. That's
my life, or that I have a closet with all those wigs, right? I only have 2.
Well, that was the same. I mean, it's the same thing today as it was for me in the 70s and 80s. Watching television and what was depicted on television as far as the gay person.
Yeah.
It was the twink, overly effeminate, individual.
The troubled individual.
The troubled individual, the sidekick, never the love interest, never the star of the show. It was that. And I didn't relate to those folks either. It's the same today.
And if the show was remotely progressive, the character would get AIDS and die. So
something tragic would happen to them.
Who was it? Cole just brought this up about Lost in Space?
Yeah.
And remember how
Dr. Smith.
Dr. Smith.
And Dr. Smith would grab a little child and hold in front. Oh, kill him! I'm so scared.
Yeah.
Like that was it. Think about then. Like of course, when you see that as an example of what the world understands a gay person to be, why on earth would you ever want to be gay? But you don't get to choose when you know that from 3 years old that you are. Right. And you grow up and it really fucks you up. So this is all interesting, right? We're looking at how we've come to see ourselves. The topic is gay friendships.
Yeah.
Right. And to me, it's always a question I tend to ask a lot of clients is, who's your gay tribe? Who are the people you hang out with? And it's interesting, or is it surprising? In my case, I talk to a lot of gay men who just don't have camaraderie with other gay men. Mm-hmm. Or I will often have this experience where I'll have a gay client come in and they're just like, every problem in the world is because of the existence of gay men. Like, gay men just make me crazy, and I'm just so tired of this. And like, what happens is we pathologize and demonize gay identity as the cause of all our angst. Yeah. And I always just tell people, I say, it's interesting. I've never had a heterosexual straight person come in and blame heterosexuality for their problems.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think we see this in other communities that have dealt with stereotypes and been marginalized. But we're talking specifically about, I just feel like, and again, I think Mindfully Gay is an invitation to kind of shift that cultural paradigm. Like, how do we get to meet people? Sexuality is great, but how do we move beyond seeing each other as objects and moving into this place of community? I like Cole's concept of tribalism.
I love that too.
Because I think that's a beautiful way of thinking about it. We are a tribe. We are an energy. We are the medicine people for society. I mean, could you imagine Salt Lake City without gay people? I mean, the temples would look awful.
Right. I'm thinking about, what we're doing in Mindfully Gay and the development of our social groups, and just have these different outings and opportunities for people to get together. Because when I think about my personal experience, especially as I've gotten older, maybe probably my late 30s until present, I know I'll be able to relate to people, gay or straight or otherwise, when I meet people in situations that I enjoy, like working out, baking, nutrition, yoga. And so I can relate on just those commonalities, and I can talk to anybody, and if they happen to be gay, cool, and then we can broaden that perspective and broaden the relationship even. And so with like the opportunities that we're sharing, game night, hey, I like games. I'll probably meet other people who like games, cooking, baking, hiking, I think that might be one avenue when I'm thinking about, well, how do people meet other gay people? Well, do the things or go to the events or go do the things that you love that other people are doing, and you'll probably be able to relate on that thing
for sure.
Right?
No, I mean, think about the game, game night that's in the daytime, but whatever. So game day night that we had, and I'm thinking about that crew. There were some queens. There were some older couples. There was a rough and tumble gay that couldn't really talk. We had the full gamut.
Yeah.
And we playing stupid games, being stupid together, and the walls break down, and we just start like, they want to be a part of this. Mm-hmm. They want to be a part of that energy. Yeah. And you're right. It's a common, we all have common interests. We just need to get together and focus on those, and not just about fucking or being objectified or whatever it is.
Right.
Well, in every event, right, we'll say, okay, we're going to play games from 3 to 6. But about 90 minutes into it, now we're just talking.
We're just talking.
Like people are like the hiking thing. I'm glad it wasn't a vigorous hike, because it's interesting. People were just like chatting and carrying on, and people were walking kind of slow, because they were busy engaging with each other.
Yeah.
And most of them had not even met each other until that event. But
exactly.
There's always 1 or 2 people that know how to take the lead and be social. And there's always 1 or 2 people who are really kind of shy and introverted and need that help to be drawn out. Mm-hmm. And there's some of us that like to walk fast.
But it's all about a chance to practice.
Yeah. I don't know if we talked about that. I was listening to our podcast this morning, and maybe it came up in the podcast. But this concept of practicing being in relationship to each other. Mm-hmm. And
and I think I was just going to say, and the willingness to nurture that. Mm-hmm. Because, and I'm just thinking about we've known each other for 1 million years. And I was like, well, how did we meet? We met professionally, I knew you were gay, and I think you knew I was gay. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Was it that obvious? But we met professionally because, you in your office, and I was working as a therapist and putting programs together and all of that. So that's what kind of brought us together, because we're putting some programming together. But so that was the commonality. But then we start talking about what we really wanted to do.
Yeah.
We were talking about what the work and the monies from the state had us do as we came together. But then we start talking about if we could use this money the way that we really wanted to use it, this is what we would do.
If we could address the core and quit playing around with the symptoms.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what happens in the world of intervention, as we're busy putting out little fires, but we never get to the source of the issues.
Don't get to the source.
Yeah.
But it didn't stay with that. It was, our professionalism, yes, we worked together that way. But because we had this other commonality in wanting to form, Queer Spirit really kind of blossomed right in that moment. The seed was planted. And because of that, our relationship really began to really grow. And because I think because we were so passionate about it, we invested
Yeah.
in that and each other.
We were talking, we were collaborating, we were brainstorming, and very much about kind of what's happening. We're doing this on the podcast, but we've been doing this like 4 months, and just our energy dynamics between us have shifted considerably. Partly because this brings us together,
Mm-hmm.
but then as we get to know each other, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, gee, how's your step grandmother doing, and how's your partner, and what's happening in your world,
Right.
and then to even be able to talk about, gosh, sometimes this makes me feel insecure, this causes me to feel this way, like just kind of talking about it, sometimes being witnessed, sometimes being getting advice, getting a perspective that wasn't there.
Yeah.
I know that the perspective like I get from you guys is going to understand the queerness, and is going to understand some of these dynamics that we just rehearsed, and understand it in that context.
Mm-hmm.
That's friendship.
That's
true. That really is friendship.
Yeah, that's how it's forged. That's how you make it.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not going to find it. I don't like to say this. I think we've become dependent on social media. Like, Facebook is a nice way to know what's happening. Instagram is a nice way to know how your life is not measuring up to others. And, Grindr and Scruff, for instance, I've actually met some pretty incredible people on those apps.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it can happen.
And we were talking about this morning. I've also met some real assholes. And what's interesting is sometimes an individual can stick out, right? And we will cast an entire spell that person somehow, out of 10 people, I might have had 7 really great interactions,
Mm-hmm.
but that one person will sully the whole story for me, right? And I have to sometimes back up and realize that's about that person. That person doesn't represent the other 10 gay guys that I know.
Yeah.
And okay, maybe he's pretty, or maybe he's got this kind of body, or whatever it is that has kind of initiated that attraction, that the rejection or the response back doesn't have to cast an entire story over everyone. But for whatever reason we do that, and I think it goes back to what we talked about, that whole internalized homophobic trauma response, right? The last person I want to be rejected by is someone from my own tribe.
Yeah, right. Oh, man.
And I sometimes wonder if we need to have a discussion about how to tactfully say I'm not interested, how to respond to them instead of ghosting people, to at least respond and say, have a nice day. I don't think this is the right time.
Yeah.
It's very different than saying you're too old or you're not pretty enough, right? Whatever.
That's a real, that's tough. That, from the perspective of where I come from, in the beginning, and I actually haven't been on the apps in, I think, almost a year now. I think I just haven't used them, and because I much rather, I like it when the dudes come at me in the gym. It's just much more tangible. I enjoy that interaction. It just feels good. I get more out of it. But I because of the porn and who we are and the celebrity we have, I always feel if someone reaches out to me to compliment what we do, I always engage and respond. I'm sure my gallery's open, my taint's everywhere, whatever. But I feel it's a sense of obligation, because it takes courage from that person to say I jerk off to you. You know what I mean? To give me that compliment. And so that's how I approach it. And I'm grateful for it. And yeah, my gallery's open, but then I can send the wrong message to that individual because they think it's go time. We're going to bang. And, I'm now the pictures start coming at me, and you're right. It's tough. How do you respectfully let that person know? And it's a bit more complicated with my positioning, because how I would approach that, because of what I've done, because they've seen me have sex for years with, whatever. and I'm talking to them, and I'm being happy that they're talking to me, but I need to let them know that, we're not going to have sex, but I'm grateful that you're reaching out and we can be friends.
And maybe it's that, but it is finding those tactful, polite human ways just of, to say no, because you have the right to say no.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say no.
Yeah.
And not have to have a reason why you're saying no necessarily. But I like what you said. He was like, well, thank you, but not right now, or I'm not sure if this is the direction I want to go. And you just be respectful.
Yeah.
They're going to take it the way they're going to take
Yeah.
it. But if you're respectful and you're speaking from your heart and your sincerity, that's key.
There's a person receiving your message.
Yeah.
They should be seen as a person and not an object. Like when we're on the apps talking to each other, what is a polite way to say, I'm not interested?
But here's the problem. Does that come after galleries had been opened on both sides? Like, is that, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Does that mean it's, okay, I can tell you from experience. It's certainly easier when someone's come at me and the gallery's not open, but maybe it's a whole pic or whatever the fuck, and I can see the profile, and that allows me to just say, not really my thing. I don't even know. I don't know, but it's a tough, when we've both opened galleries and one person realizes, not for me. Yeah, I would love you to teach me how to deal with that one in a tactful way, because I don't really know. I think what I've done in the past is beat around the bush, pun intended, I guess. I'm really, once the pics are open and I maybe realize, that's not going to happen. How's the weather? I don't know. I changed the topic. I don't know. This would be great. This would be great if we could figure this out. I don't know how to do it.
Here's something that I've done, because I certainly use the apps, but in my profile, it says something like, say hi, I like to chat.
Yeah.
So there's really no indication there of wanting to hook up, or I'm not on the apps to hook up, and I really don't. And I kind of want to just get to know some people. So that's what's in my profile. And so I get the woofs and the likes and all of that. And open your gallery? Sure. And so we open the galleries, and there's a lot of sexting going back and forth. And they might say, hey, you want to get together? And I just say, no, thank you. Not looking. Or they'll ask, looking? I was like, no, I'm not looking.
You know what? I'm sorry. I have done that. Actually, that is good. I have done that before. I'm just, I'm not looking right now. I'm just here to chat. You're absolutely right. Yeah. That is a way to do it. It is better to say, you're not looking, but I'm here to chat.
Yeah.
At least leave that part open so the individual is not full rejection, knowing that, okay, they're just here to talk and they're open to talking with me. That is a good idea, John. That is good.
And the naked pictures have been swapped, and hey, you're sexy, you're hot, and all of that. That's part of the dialogue. But I'm just here to chat, and this has been fun. This has been fun, exchanging pictures.
That's right.
And that's the extent. For me, that's the extent of where that's going to go. If they're local, because sometimes they're not local, but if they're local, if I'm going to meet with them, maybe it's, hey, come to a yoga class. Hey, let's go get some coffee. Hey, let's, it might be that, because I want to get to know them that way before we might be hopping in the bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I end up, I like to try to have a diversity of conversation going. So it's not uncommon that I bring up mindfully gay or what do you like to do for fun? I like to try to get some conversation going. And if it's somebody that I'm not interested in connecting with, I'll just kind of gear the conversation around some of the other talking points. And what I will typically say is, and it's usually true, is, yeah, my schedule's not really open, or my availability is not, I'll just, and those are actually very true statements for me.
Legit, yeah.
I think that's typically how I've handled it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like ghosting people. And a lot of times if I just know somebody's not going to be a match just based off of what I see,
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of block them
Yeah.
ahead of time.
Yeah.
So that there doesn't have to be that moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I'm always mindful, and I know I sometimes will catch myself in a situation thinking, I know this person really wants to get together, and I'm just not sure that I want to or have the availability, and I'm trying to figure out how do I communicate in such a way that I'm preserving their sense of identity,
Mm-hmm.
their sense of self-esteem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is, I think there's a lot of I'm one of them. I think there's a lot of fragile people on those sites. I hate getting ghosted.
Mm-hmm. And I think if we can put ourselves in that situation, knowing that I don't like to be ghosted, so how would I treat someone else?
Yeah, this
You know,
etiquette idea.
just
right.
etiquette and just, communication. And I keep thinking about, come to these events so you
Yeah.
can practice how to
Practice.
communicate and talk and have, and
Yeah.
say yes and say no and ask questions. And you can do the same. You can do it on the apps too. It's a great way to practice. And so if you don't like being ghosted,
Yeah.
and you need to, and the tables are turned, how are you then respectful in declining or saying no? And, with that balance of, you don't want to, kick them in their ego, right? Like, hey, this has been fun. That was, thanks for the banter. The pictures were great, but I don't think this is, going to work for me right now.
Yeah.
And call it a day.
Mhm.
Just so it's just not just this cutoff. I'm like, what the heck happened?
It's true, because it's, you think about it, the majority of people are already coming into it with issues, given what we all just discussed, what we all went through growing up, high school, whatever. And then to go into the app and have these just, you're right, the etiquette's not there, it's rude. And so then that gives them this impression that that's what it's like in the gay world. And so then that's the individual that's coming to you, telling you all the problems with gay men and everything. And it's it just entirely relates back to what we're doing here and the importance of it.
100 years ago, I had this contract with the city where it used to be that guys who got picked up for cruising got sent to sex offender programs.
Oh my God.
And I went to the courts and I said, totally different issues. And if you feel like there needs to be some kind of diversion, and we created this great program called Healthy Self-Expressions. People would come, and what I do, I created group situations where I'd have 6 or 8 guys who are all busted for cruising. But now they had to sit and talk to each other, and they had the same kind of experience that we're having.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them made friends with each other.
Right.
I lost my point. So the idea was that we
Get together without the pretense of sex, or
oh shit! I just lost my point. Another edit.
It'll come back.
It'll come back.
Well, we created that program. Let me just see if I can talk. We created that program as a way of getting people to kind of get out of the objectification process.
Yeah.
And so when I would talk to those people individually, many of them closeted, many of them had been out having sex, but didn't know they're gay people. And so what they would say is, there's no way I could come out. Why? I don't want to be part of that community. I don't want to be part of that lifestyle.
Yeah.
And then I would say, what's the lifestyle?
Yeah.
And they'd say,
fucking in the weeds.
The cruising and the parks.
Yeah.
I said, wow, that's interesting because I've been gay for 100 years and I've never cruised in the parks.
Exactly.
And my idea of community does not look like that.
Right.
Right? And so what had happened is their view of community was so narrow.
So narrow.
And so we can take park cruising out of that equation and we can put in Grindr, Scruff, and the other apps.
Same. Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
If that is my sense of what's available, and if the door seems closed, right? For instance, I would tell you as an older gay man, I would say ageism is alive in the gay community
Mm-hmm.
because there's definitely a lot of it that plays out on those apps.
Yes, sir.
Unless you fit this like super daddy profile,
Mhm.
which I do not own leather. Sorry. Right.
Right?
Right.
It doesn't breathe well.
But if I allow myself to have a more expansive view of the community,
Mhm.
if I am participating in events and activities, political or social or whatever,
Right.
I may start to understand that Grindr and Scruff represents a segment.
Yes. Yes.
Right? It's not the total narrative.
Exactly.
And just like if I limited my life to a particular approach to that life, I'm only going to see it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Or we even had that conversation this morning, right? Is my experiences with party life may look very different than your guys's based on the experiences that you've participated in and where you have found yourself.
Right.
And somewhere in our narratives is the collective consciousness. And again, I think that's why the retreats and these gatherings are important, is we can start to see the complexity
Yeah.
of who we are,
Mm-hmm.
the complexity and the gifts that we bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And the complexity of our community.
Of our community.
Yeah.
Like the reality of what it can be and what it is.
And what it is.
And how to, assimilate, how to get into the stream, how to get into the current of it.
Yeah.
Because you're right. It's tough. It's a hard place to be with social media, with the apps and, hookup apps and what Instagram's telling you got to be part of, look like, be this jump up on whatever the fuck. And it's hard because it's not what a lot of people think of themselves as. And so it makes sense that they're just pushing away. But again, that's exactly what this retreat is about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
you don't, the people posing on Instagram
Right.
are the muscle guys, right? The reels on Instagram are about uplifting. Look how great my life is. Look how much fun my life is. It's never the spot that says, God, sometimes life is rough. Sometimes I'm anxious.
I'm struggling to find my place in this world.
Yeah. And even when people do kind of tell their tale on like Facebook or that, there's a lot of like, oh, there they go again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Which I often think when people respond that way, it's their sense of helplessness because we want quick and easy solutions to everything. And so when we see the complexity of your life and get overwhelmed by it, and I can't fix it,
Yeah.
it would just be easier to dismiss you.
You just admit. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Is being difficult, is creating your own problems. You're a victim of your own circumstance, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember a time, I don't hear it so much now, but I remember a time when, well, if you just weren't gay,
Oh my
You
gosh.
just choose
your
to
life
do
would be so
something
much
different.
easier. And as a therapist, I can promise you, straight folks don't have it any easier.
Yeah. I don't want to go down that path. I was like, I don't want to be that.
In fact, but I would even tell you this issue of loneliness, this sense of feeling isolated, this sense of feeling like no one out there cares. I think between cell phones and social media,
Yeah.
that in fact, you're seeing a lot of literature now in psychological reports, and even pop psychology is picking up on it, the epidemic of loneliness.
Yes.
Mhm.
That there is this illusion that everyone is hyper connected,
Mm-hmm.
and yet most people are finding themselves insulated
Yes.
to what they can get off social media,
Exactly.
as we use YouTube and podcasts to reach you.
But it's a way to chip away at it for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be something about, that's why I was thinking like an app. It's not a hookup app. It's an app to connect. But how would it be different? Like, what would you talk about your interests? I mean, part of the reason why I think Meetup is such an interesting thing is because, we're, just like you were talking about, we're coming together with this commonality. It's not about who's going to fuck or who's doing how many bicep curls, whatever. We're coming together to play a game, or we're coming together to knit, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, I just feel that there's a market in the gay community for an app that is more targeted. It's not about butthole pictures and everything. It's about, who are you? What do you like to do? What are you struggling with? Let's talk about, maybe, you can go into chat rooms where you can connect with someone that has a similar struggle, and you can just start to have a conversation like that.
Yeah.
Right.
It would be something, and you could have, as someone that might be afraid to be vulnerable and open up, maybe it's easier to do that in app format and text. I mean, something that came up in pandemic that really rose high is therapy through, I even started, I think, with a couple therapists because my mother passed in April and I needed something. And so I did a bit of work with, some therapists, and it was nice to have someone checking in, concerned about how I was feeling that day.
Right. Yeah. Well, so anyone out there knows how to do app development, and we've got the concept for the Mindfully Gay app.
What did they use? Oh, home teaching. We could have gay home teaching.
Gay Relief Society. I thought about. Last night I was thinking about the stuff we're doing. It's like Relief Society for us gays, but yeah, sure.
Well, we'll make it glamorous.
We'll put sequins on it.
No flower patterns. No white shirts.
Oh man!
Here's your gay lesson for today. A lot of people may not know home teaching, but it used to be a program in the Mormon church where two gay Mormons. Two
closeted jets, right?
Two Mormon priesthood holders would go and visit a family just to check in on them. It was a monthly assignment.
It was a front. Yeah. It was a beard, really. But yes. Anyway.
Who are the two guys coming to your house once a month?
I've seen this porno before many times.
Like, what porn is that?
I need to be helped.
Oh my gosh.
This is bad.
We joke about this, but there's definitely truth about it. Meaning, we want to connect, and here are just some ways. Even though we're joking about it, here's some ways that people can, realistically, with value, connect. What if a couple of guys came in and checked in on how you doing?
Right.
At least once a month.
Yeah.
I would say weekly.
Right? I mean, how would that be?
Wouldn't that be amazing? We're so taken aback at oh my God, someone's at the front door. What's happening?
Yeah. Like shut the curtains, turn up the lights.
Act like you're not home.
Exactly. Pretend I'm not here, but wouldn't that be something just to have a group of guys bouncing around, checking in on other guys? I mean, hello, that is what's happening with what we're doing right now. We're starting to develop that network, but...
Well, Sage, so Utah used to have a network called Sage Utah, and it was for people 50 and over. Now there's this woman, Deborah Hall, who's running Seniors Out and Proud, and because Sage is kind of disbanded here. But we actually had a lesbian couple who was an older lesbian couple that was promoting and actually developing an outreach. And the outreach was that like Ingrid would go visit Charles, who's 86 years old and shut in. But once or twice a month, she kind of made it her assignment to check in.
Yeah.
And they were kind of creating this network.
Yeah.
Because what we see with a lot of our senior gay folks now is they don't feel like they're part of the community. They don't feel valued as the elders of history, if you will. They get kind of marginalized and pushed out. And so they end up kind of isolating.
Yeah.
And if they end up institutionalized, it's kind of sad they go back into the closet because of institutional homophobia.
Right.
There's a great documentary that was done on this. But what these lesbian sisters were working on was creating kind of this network. We would try to identify who these folks were and keep tabs of them.
Yeah.
And I guess I would argue that in many cases, we all need that.
We really
I
do.
need that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was saying earlier about, you can once you've established the relationship or the friendship, invest in it and create these networks. Check in on your friends. I just lost my dad, and there was a period when he was in the hospital and not doing well. I wasn't doing well. And I've shared this with Jerry that I just felt totally alone. Like, what happened to my friends? Like, they weren't checking in on me. And it just devastated me. And I just felt so alone. And, and I think even it doesn't have to be anything, tragic, like a loss, anything. It can just be, just check in on your friends. Mm-hmm. If you got the socials and you got your phone, you got a phone. Call somebody, text, hey, how you doing? Yeah. Just saying hi, smile emoji, and I'm constantly doing that. But I think it's in that same vein. Just invest, stay connected. If you've got some friends and you want to maintain that relationship, in the long run, invest in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always appreciated your little texts. In fact, Bruce and I say, did you get a John text today?
For sure. But, and maybe that's a skill as we're creating these groups of people that are coming together and practicing the etiquette of connecting and whatnot. In time, maybe that's something that we could start to make a tenet of what we do, is that we each have crews that we check in. I mean, we're all just kind of continually doing it, but to make sure that it's happening with consistency, we might set up some type of network of expectation of you have these two, these two have these two. Like it's just, we're not just checking in on someone, that someone then has people they have to check in. Like it's a cyclical, like it's asymmetrical. We're all doing it for each other.
Right.
But maybe that becomes part of, kind of what we're doing here.
Well, I remember, I noticed this at the waffle breakfast. Mm-hmm. Because at the waffle breakfast, you kind of did this announcement and you said, here's what we want to do. Here are some of the things we're interested in doing. And we threw out some of the ideas. And it was interesting. Like the energy in the room just kind of rose. Like people are like, yeah. And then we did it at the end of the barbecue. You had already left, but at the end of the barbecue, Nick did it. People were literally gathering at the door. And I don't remember what you said, but it was about the sense of connectedness. And people just kind of gathered. And then they heard the announcement, but it almost set off like these little pockets of fireworks. And I was just kind of listening to people all process what you had just said. Mm-hmm. And even coming up with their own creative ideas. And we even had a gentleman, we've had two now, who have suggested things that they would like to create.
That's what it's all
about. And I'm like, yes, mindfully gay you want to do a sewing circle or a quilting circle. I love that idea. We're going to create the space for that to happen. Yeah. Give me the details and we'll make it a part of it.
We'll help you put it together.
And we had someone earlier come up with an idea that I'm curious about because it's not something that I'm terribly familiar with, but I thought, I'm going to test my boundaries and go and check this thing out as well. So I think Mindfully Gay becomes that opportunity. Not every circle is going to center around yoga or sweat lodge or fitness. But it's almost like we're becoming a community center minus the building. We're just going to become a community.
I love that. I love that. Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for knitting or sewing or whatever it's going to be. I really want to do it. It's like, I can't wait.
I think the idea was quilting.
Okay. I'm down.
Yeah.
Sewing would be fun too. I mean, there's just some things that I know personally that I want to try and getting the initiative just to do it myself, it just isn't there. But if there was other people that are wanting to do it and like, oh yeah,
more importantly, like one of, a participant in our group, whatever, that has some expertise that wants to share it, like for sure. Bring it and contribute. Yeah. This is that laying the brick in the foundation of what we're building. Yeah. Like everyone has perspective and gifts and we can all come together and share them. And it just makes it a really powerful, exciting place to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's how, that's how you make gay friends.
That is.
But you guys show up. You can't just go to your therapist's office and bitch and complain there's nothing there and then not show up. Not that that's a pet peeve of mine.
No.
So, the invitation continues to be open as far as you're listening to this podcast. Maybe you're watching it on YouTube. The word is getting out, friend. You're starting to tell people, have you listened to this? But the invitation is still there. Send us your questions. Send us your topics and ideas. Send us your perspective on this topic, for example, on friendship. Maybe we've got some clues, some information that you could share with us that we could share with the listening community.
Well, and I think we need to do a shout out. We recently discovered where our podcast is going.
Yeah, that's right.
Spain, Mexico,
Turkey,
Indonesia,
yeah.
Turkey.
all over the country, Hawaii.
Yes. I know someone in New Zealand listening.
Yeah. So we just kind of thought we had like 2 or 3 listeners and that we were just kind of doing our own therapy. But it is exciting. And what I want to say in that shout out is, we're in Salt Lake City creating this. But there's absolutely no reason why people in their own communities with their own sense of talent, right? This is not a Salt Lake City phenomena. This is the phenomena that you create where you're at.
Yes.
And, Harry Hayes started out with the Managing Society of bringing like-minded men together to talk about their lives, even though they were closeted and complicated lives back in the 40s and 50s.
Wow, yeah.
This is the 2024 version of that.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And it can happen where you're at.
Yeah.
And so I just really want to acknowledge.
Absolutely.
We're excited that you find something relevant about what we're talking about, and looking forward to our sister podcast from Indonesia that is going to be talking.
But if I can also, the perspective of people that are all over the place, and certainly in a place like Turkey, that might be more repressive about, gay presence or gay life, it would be so wonderful from anyone listening, regardless of where you are, but to tell us what you want from your gay community center. Like, that would just be such an interesting thing to hear from someone in Barcelona, from people with just, we're here, I'm in this place, I know what I went through and the trauma I've got here, and I know what I need. I think I'm getting a better understanding of what I need from my gay community. We're building it together, but it's the contribution, it's the ideas that come that really just make it exciting, that really just make it, like you're saying, like, there's things I want to try and do, but I'm hesitant. But then when someone recommends it and they take the lead, of course I'm going to jump on and be a part of something like that. And I just feel like now that we have, and it's going to continue to grow, absolutely, but the more people we have listening, the better opportunity we have to just really create something that is so deeply profound, because we can get feedback from so many different perspectives. We were just talking about something about the retreat, something that was written about the retreat. And you were saying that you maybe hadn't looked at it from my perspective, where I'm coming from it. And it's just the change in which, and the importance of doing that, of just understanding things from different perspectives is all. And I think because we have so many people listening from all over the place, it would just be so glorious to hear from them, contributions from them.
Yeah.
And we're truly sharing and spreading the magic and this power that we really have, as gay and queer people. We talked about it in the very first episode, and just how powerful we really are as a people.
Yeah.
And just the sense that someone is listening in Barcelona or somewhere in New Zealand, that hopefully that magic is getting there, and you're seeing your magic and how you can spread it in your own community there.
And I would definitely, if people go to the mindfullygay.com website, there's 2 places on there where you have a place to give us feedback. And I think the feedback we're really hungry about is, what do you want to hear us talk about?
Yeah.
What would you like us to discuss? I have a vision that some professor somewhere is going to hear something that we're talking about and use it as a discussion point with their students, or increase empathy and understanding about the gay experience, or maybe there's a community center trying to get developed in some country where that's not possible.
Right.
And maybe they'll be inspired and they might say, hey, give us some ideas. We just need to hear from our audience so that we can keep this relevant.
We can keep it relevant and keep, giving you what you need, what you want. If it's certainly feeding you and nurturing you, we're here for it. We really are.
Yeah.
So send us your emails, go to the website, mindfullygay.com. There's places there to send in your comments and ideas, and look at the events. If you happen to be in the Salt Lake City area, see the events, the free events that we have available for you to practice making gay friends and interacting in that way. Any last things before we wrap it up?
I'm wondering if, we started this conversation with the apprehension that we feel about connecting with other humans, whether they're gay or straight.
Mm.
And I wonder if the way in which we can start chipping away at that thing within us, because it's a built-in thing. It's a reflexive, it's a knee-jerk reaction.
Mm.
And I think maybe the medicine for changing that is just understanding the real tangible good about being gay, and sharing it with the community, coming together and doing things together and making connections that are, that have nothing to do with sex and looking a certain way, that negative tribalism stuff. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's the thing that I think that is the thing that's going to help me more, is just having just actual connections that make me feel good about being a human in this world, and that can maybe start chipping away at that apprehension that I bring into any, potential new connection with another human being.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Good.
Last thoughts?
No, I think we're good.
We're good. All right. That is a wrap, everyone. Thank you so much for listening, and just continue to be your authentic self. And we'll see you next time on the Mindfully Gay podcast.
That's a wrap. Today's episode about gay friendships. Thanks for joining us.
Don't forget to explore our previous episodes for more insights and discussions. There's a lot to catch up on.
And we'd love to hear from you. Share your stories and thoughts with us on social media, or visit our website at mindfullygay.com.
Your experiences enrich our community and help us all grow. So, reach out, connect, and let's keep the conversation going.
Share this podcast with friends and help spread the word about Mindfully Gay.
Until next time, keep nurturing those friendships and stay mindfully gay.